Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today, we're going to be reviewing day number 13 of training camp for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If you guys are new here, go ahead and subscribe. If you do enjoy these training camp review videos, go ahead and hit that like button and let me know down in the comments section below what you guys think about Buccaneers training camp. But let's get started here talking about some of the players who were not in practice today. The only two names who are guys who are not on the PUP list are still Cyril Grayson, who has been out for a little bit, and now Robert Hainsey, who has been out for a little bit. So, not good, but again, these things take time. It's precautionary for a handful of guys, and I'm sure that everybody will be good to go by the end of the preseason and going into the regular season as well. But let's get started with some of the notes here. Giovanni Bernard did very well as a pass-catching back today, and also he did very good as a pass-blocking running back, specifically in one instance against Devin White on a blitz. And we've been talking a lot about Giovanni Bernard, right? It's not a secret. He has been very, very good in this training camp, but I definitely feel like one thing we haven't mentioned a ton is his pass blocking. It's definitely something that kind of goes under the radar. It's something that you don't think about too much, but it's still a very, very important thing. The Buccaneers need to have a good pass blocking running back, and it seems like Giovanni Bernard has put in a lot of work this offseason on improving that aspect of his game. We are starting to see it do some good work now, especially against a guy like Devin White. He's not an easy guy to block under any circumstances, but in that one instance, Giovanni Bernard was up to the task. Staying on the offensive side of the football, Chris Godwin had a good day catching screens and the occasional long pass from Blaine Gabbert, and we will talk more about the offense as a whole during this practice later on in this video, but I just want to say there were some nuggets of good from the offense. Now, moving to the defensive side of the football, Mike Edwards actually had a pick six off of Blaine Gabbert on a pass intended for Travis Johnson. It continues what has overall been a very, very good camp for Mike Edwards. I've seen a lot of people talk about, man, is Mike Edwards going to be pushing Jordan Whitehead for starting time? And it definitely seems like that is looking like it is more and more the case. And by the way, we are getting this information from our friends over at pewterreport.com. I'll have their stuff linked in the comments section down below. Moving back to the offensive side of the football, specifically on the offensive line, I want to talk about Alex Cappa, who apparently has been very dominant in 1v1s all throughout camp. He has looked like an absolute just brick wall of a human being. And going into this training camp, myself, and I'm sure a lot of other people have had this thought and talked about, Aaron Stinnie versus Alex Cappa, what's going to happen there? Is Alex Cappa in danger of losing his starting job to Aaron Stinnie, who admittedly looked really good in playoff football, filling in for an injured Alex Cappa, but, since he's come back from his injury, Cappa has looked very, very solid. He's done a very, very wonderful job. Makes sense. He also is in a contract year as well, so he is playing at the absolute top of his game. So let's see, what ends up happening with that starting right guard battle, but it seems like it's really Alex Cappa's job to lose. Another offensive lineman who's really been doing good throughout the entirety of camp, it just added another wrinkle in today's practice, has been Nick Leverett. Nick Leverett is another O-lineman who's really been having a good camp. He's been winning a lot of 1v1s, holding up as an interior offensive lineman, but today they had him work as a tackle. He was working at left tackle and right tackle in practice today after getting a lot of his work as an interior offensive lineman throughout the early stages of training camp. And he did have a very good rep against Shaq Barrett at left tackle, which is not an easy thing to do at all. So really, I think that Nick Leverett might be one of the, I want to say, the favorites to win a backup offensive line job right now. You've also got to consider guys like Sedarius Hutcherson and John Molchon, both young guys that I am a big fan of, but Nick Leverett's been showing up as well. I mean, it's still a very dead heat competition. Leverett's been getting a lot of different kind of looks and work. I wonder if they might even have him over a guy like Brad Seaton, or maybe even a backup left tackle over Josh Wells. I don't know. We'll see where they end up putting him, but again, we've talked about this before. Bruce Arians, he loves versatility in his offensive linemen, so Leverett playing both guard and tackle really isn't that much of a surprise. It's just going to be a matter of where they're going to stick him when everything is said and done, and how will that affect other roster spots on that backup O-line that might be available. We'll have to wait and see. But another guy who actually had a very, very solid day today was Tom Brady. He was absolutely wonderful today throwing the ball, just throwing absolute dimes all over the place. And yeah, you expect that from Tom Brady. He was making great passes to guys like Rob Gronkowski, O.J. Howard, Mike Evans, Giovanni Bernard, Antonio Brown, and others. But there were some, let's say, problems in terms of catching the ball. Drops were a little bit of a problem today in regards to this practice. As I said, Mike Evans, O.J. Howard, Tyler Johnson, Jalen Darden, and others all had at least one drop in today's practice. So Brady, he was making some beautiful throws, but if your guys can't catch the ball, that could lead to, you know, not good things happening on the offensive side of the football. But like I said, we will mention that a little bit more in a second. But overall, yeah, Brady was great. Some of the guys had some good plays, but they also had some drops as well. Tristan Worfs is another offensive lineman who had a very, very good practice today. He has been very good against Shaq Barrett throughout the entirety of this training camp. And much like in the case of, say, Carlton Davis against these Buccaneers wide receivers, I don't knock Shaq Barrett for that. Tristan Worfs is just a very, very solid offensive lineman. And, you know, Shaq Barrett, he's getting paid like a top pass rusher. He should be a top pass rusher, and I think he is. He's just going up against what is right now what a lot of people think is a top tackle in the league. So it makes sense that there would be a little bit of kind of a dead even draw there in terms of wins for Shaq Barrett and wins for Tristan Worfs. But good for Worfs to have a good training camp. He's got great competition, you know, going up against the likes of Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul on a daily basis. And overall, that is going to make him even better, I think, going into year number 2. Some other guys who did good along the defensive side of the football. Jeremiah Ledbetter looked good in pass rush today, and Will Golson looked good in run defense as well. Both guys that we've talked about a little bit here in these training camp videos. We've mentioned Jeremiah Ledbetter before, and I even talked about him in, you know, players who have been impressing in training camp so far, as well as matchups to watch in the first preseason game versus the Bengals. But let's keep on seeing how he grows, how he develops. And then Will Golson, still a very underrated guy along this defensive line, in my opinion. I think that overall, he is just a very solid contributor, a very solid starter. He's a guy who does exactly what he needs to do. He does the gritty plays. He does the really grind out work, and it doesn't get noticed a ton. So I am always happy to mention Will Golson here because, you know, I think he does some good work. Mike Edwards dropped an interception on Tom Brady today, and, you know, that's one of those opportunities that you really can't afford to miss. You know, Mike Edwards, of course, he's been getting interceptions left, right, and center in certain practices, but whenever you're battling for a starting job potentially against Jordan Whitehead, who has also had a good camp in his own right, you can't miss opportunities like that. You can't drop interceptions. Now, again, I don't think that's absolutely doomed Mike Edwards to being the backup, but you really wish he would have came down with that interception, but it was not to be. Now we get to a couple of more interesting notes here after practice. Bruce Arians said that this was the team's worst offensive practice in 3 years of him being with the team. That is quite a statement. That is including so many practices, a lot of them not having Tom Brady, by the way, as your quarterback. That was, you know, the Jameis Winston days. And he's saying that this was the worst one. Wow, right? And Bruce Arians then went on to say that there were a lot of mental mistakes and dropped passes. Now, I don't think that Tom Brady had a bad day at all. As I said, Tom Brady was throwing dimes, but as I said, there were some drops, both in the starters and in backups, all over the place, right? Guys were just dropping passes, making some mental mistakes here or there, and I can see where Bruce Arians is coming from in a way when he says that, you know, today's practice on the offensive side of the football was tough, but I don't know if I would go as far as to say it's the worst practice offensively in 3 years. I mean, come on now, let's be realistic here, man. But overall, I wouldn't chalk that up to Tom Brady. I wouldn't, you know, I do understand where Bruce Arians is coming from in terms of mental errors and drop passes and whatnot. But, I mean, to say it's the worst practice, I don't know. I think that's going a bit too far. What do you guys think? Let me know. But on the flip side, Arians did say it was an elite defensive practice, which is good. And based off the notes here, you can kind of tell. I mean, you know, there was definitely some guys doing some good things in the secondary, like Mike Edwards, like some of the other guys out there. But like I said, there were some good nuggets, some good notes on the offensive side of the football. So again, you know, much like what happened in that other practice where Bruce Arians had said it was a horrible practice, it was a terrible practice, and Tom Brady said pretty much the same exact thing, you know, those guys are fiery, they're competitive, they are going to say things like that. But just from my perspective, from a fan's perspective, there were definitely positive things. It wasn't all doom and gloom. Nobody should freak out. Not at all. There were definitely some positive things. So that's kind of it, guys. What do you think about all these notes from training camp? Let me know your thoughts about this day of practice down in the comments section below. Do you think, just based off of these notes that I've given you guys, do you think it was the worst offensive practice in 3 years, or do you think that Bruce Arians might be a little harsh in terms of his criticism? And I get it. They're the defending Super Bowl champions. You know, you got to keep these guys going. They can't get complacent at all. But just give me your guys' thoughts. I'd appreciate that. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope y'all enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.